I came here on vacation in 1978. My cousin and her husband lived here, and their association with the arts and culture in the community, NMC and the Traverse Area Arts Council, led me to be drawn to the city. The collaboration with the Old Town Playhouse and the Arts Council and the people of this region were really exciting and interesting. So, like many people do today, in 1980, I came here and chose this city without a job and came looking for work and ended up working for the Arts Council and the Old Town Playhouse back in 1980. I immediately became involved with the arts community, certainly as director of the Old Town Playhouse and the Arts Council for many years, but I was also interested in the sense of place that was so evident in this community and emerging in many ways. I was drawn to the fact that on the radio one day I heard that the mayor, Carol Hale, and the city attorney were stopping the state from tearing down historic buildings at the former psychiatric hospital. And I thought, this is a place I'd really like to get involved in the government where the city is standing up to the state and trying to save those historic buildings. And so while I was working at the Playhouse, I ran for the city commission and was elected in 1985 and re-elected in 1989. I had the distinct honor of serving as mayor in 1988, which was in fact the very year that the state hospital closed and closed out. I think at that point they had 200 and some patients. In 1990, the Downtown Development Authority and the Downtown Traverse City Association had reached agreement amid a great deal of concern about the challenges facing downtown. The new mall was coming, JCPenney's was leaving, the future of the Park Place Hotel was of concern, and so I resigned from the City Commission and the Old Town Playhouse about 10 years after arriving here to take the position with the Downtown Development Authority. That focus for the downtown offered me a unique opportunity. As someone interested in the community and being on the city commission, I cared about a lot of things, the neighborhoods and downtown survival, but I didn't care so much about sewage treatment plants and those kinds of things. So I was really able to throw myself into the job of worrying about downtown's future. We were able initially to start thinking about what the greatest challenges for a future downtown were going to be. Obviously, empty spaces like JCPenney's were of concern, but there's also a recognition that we needed to try to bring connectivity to downtown for the pedestrian, that they should feel an enjoyable experience. And a lot of downtown had been torn down over the years to make room for parking lots, and fires had eliminated 5-story buildings and there were 1-story buildings. And then we had, of course, the abandoned ironworks factory sitting in the middle of the downtown and the Old Town neighborhood. The important thing for any downtown, I think, is to worry about what they wanted to be when they grew up. And there wasn't a great deal of thought about that. There were big proposals that had been voted down, and I often say to other downtowns, if it's one easy answer, it's probably not a good one. Because they're very complex. They involve everything from whether there are dead flies in the merchants' windows all the way up to $10 and $50 million redevelopment projects. So the DDA had started, just as I came on board, a streetscapes project, worrying about the most basic of things, the sidewalks, the trees, and that whole environment in those 4 main blocks on Front Street. And building on that, we began to try to pull everybody together and talk about the kind of improvements we needed to bring back some of this walkability and some of the density. We learned that downtown, about 2/3 of downtown was gone from its peak in the 1960s due to fires and parking lots. And so the planning elements were really important. And the ironworks was a perfect example. We could have had a one-story drugstore and the rest in parking lot. And instead, we've ended up with a mixture of uses, Haggerty Insurance with over 500 employees. If someone had told me when I was mayor in the late 80s that we would have over 500 employees in one business downtown, I would have said no, never going to happen. But we have people living downtown. When I was on the city commission, there's a required position on the DDA that they be a resident, there be a resident of the district, and it was vacant for many, many years because there was simply no one, not that many people lived downtown, and none of them were necessarily interested. A couple of years ago, we had 3 of the 12 members who are actually residents of downtown, and we currently have 2, and our chair is a resident of downtown. So those redevelopments were really part of my job early on, was inspirational, cheerleader. We can hold on through this new mall and survive, but we've got to recognize that it's going to change. Some of the changes that became apparent is that we weren't going to see the traditional anchors of downtown. We forecast that the day would come when Milliken's department store would leave, along with J.C. Penney's, and Montgomery Ward had left. And we knew that there was going to be something new, and we were so lucky. 2 things happened. The Park Place Hotel was purchased by the Traverse City Rotary Charities and revamped, reinvigorated, and reopened at a loss. That was one of the greatest gifts Rotary Charities ever gave to downtown, because Horizon Books had the courage to make one of the biggest changes, and that was expanding from their very small bookstore into the J.C. Penney's space. Downtowns disappeared across the country over time. It didn't happen overnight, and their reinvigoration has come from one step at a time, worrying about one thing, and Horizon Books and Rotary's investment were 2 big steps back to bringing back some of the vitality of downtown. Who would have ever thought that a coffee shop or bookstore would be an anchor for the new downtowns? But that's exactly what has happened.